Hello and welcome back to this Thursday afternoon David67 Celtic News YouTube channel video. This video going to be looking at two possible new left backs at Celtic to back up Tierney and in time take over from him as number one, and also a couple of options for Celtic to use as wide players, both players Celtic have looked at before. So in this video, we're going to be looking at Josh Doig and James Penrice, two possible new left-back targets for Celtic, and Sondre Orjasaeter and Michel Balikwisha, the two wide players. We've got some video clips for Orjasaeter and Balikwisha and stats for all four of those players. First, looking at the two left-back options. Josh Doig, who of course made his debut for the full Scotland international side just a few days ago. He's also got 11 under-21 caps for Scotland. Of course, started at Hearts, then to Hibs, then off to Verona, and now at Sassuolo in Italian B division, who have been promoted to Serie A this season. And it's thought that Josh Doig is keen to move on from Sassuolo. It is rumoured that Juventus are looking at him. However, it would appear that he is keen to come back to Scotland or to Britain, and apparently Celtic are looking very closely at Josh Doig. So just a wee bit more detail regarding Josh Doig. 23 years old, 6'2". His contract with Sassuolo actually runs for 3 more years, so there's likely to be a significant transfer fee, and he is thought to be valued currently around about the £5 million mark. Looking at his stats last season for Sassuolo in Serie B, 31 games, 1 goal, 1 assist, and looking at his whole career at Sassuolo, Verona, and at Hibs, 168 games, 4 goals, 16 assists. His season rating last season was 6.91 out of 10, which is a good rating. And looking at some of his other stats in more depth, he has good high ratings for his passing, particularly short and medium length passes, not too bad for longer passes and crosses. Has very good ratings for ball winning, blocking, clearing, all the defensive stats, good winning ratio of balls on the ground in tackles and also in the air as well. And at 6'2", would be a very useful addition to Celtic's back line. And I'm personally quite excited if Celtic do pursue him. Other player said to be in line for a transfer to Celtic this summer, James Penrice of Hearts. He had an excellent season for Hearts last season. He was their Player of the Year. He also was voted into the Scottish Premiership Team of the Year at left back. And he, of course, has had a reasonably long career in Scotland, recently moved to Hearts, previously been at Partick Thistle, and was particularly at Livingston, where he was, I thought, very impressive in a rather poor side. Looking a bit more detail for Penrice, 26 years old, so a wee bit older than Doig, a wee bit younger than Tierney. His contract runs through till the end of May 2027. And the current transfer fee is thought to be somewhere in the region of £1.3 million, so a pretty decent fee for a player of his age and experience. Last season, 7.22 out of 10 as his average rating, which again, obviously is showing a good quality of player. And his stats last season for Hearts, 46 games, 2 goals, 7 assists, so good outputs in terms of goals and most particularly assists. Certainly up there with what Greg Taylor and Jeffrey Schlupp were giving us on average last season, and over his whole career for those 4 different clubs he's played for, 289 games, 10 goals and 31 assists. So again, showing that his goal scoring and his ability to create goals has been good throughout his career. Very similar to Doig, he shows very good ratings for short and medium passing, decent for longer passing and crosses, and has excellent stats in terms of ball winning, on the ground, tackles, clearances, blocking shots, interceptions, um, although not such good ratings for winning the ball in the air. But at 5'10", just a wee bit shorter than Kieran Tierney, but certainly several inches taller than Greg Taylor, whom it would be presumed he is going to be replacing. Personally, I would be very happy to see either Doig or Penrice come to Celtic this summer transfer window to be the backup to Kieran Tierney. I would be a wee bit surprised if Doig would come back to Scotland to be the backup to Kieran Tierney. I suspect he'll stay another few seasons in Italy and maybe even move to one of the bigger clubs in Italy rather than come back to Scotland. Although I think he is probably the better bet of the two. However, I think Penrice would be just ideal for the number 2 choice left back at Celtic. Certainly more than good enough to play in domestic football and play at a high level. I think he's a player who can defend, but also a player who can come forward and attack and be the best of both worlds. And I think it also moving to Celtic and being back up to Kieran Tierney probably for Penrice would be a good move at this time in his career. Now, moving on to a couple of the wide players that Celtic are said to be targeting. Both players are players that I've done profiles before for, and so the fuller versions of their highlights and clips and stuff are available, and the fuller versions are there. However, just a wee recap on Sondre Orjasaeter. He is 21 years old, Norwegian under 21 international, plays for Sarpsborg, 5'10", and he is almost exclusively a left winger, although right-footed, and does not really double up down the right wing or centrally. His contract runs through to the end of December 2028, and so has a good 3 and a bit years left on his contract, and the transfer fee is thought to be around about £6 million, which does seem quite steep for a player of his fairly limited experience. His current season stats are 8 games, 1 goal, 3 assists. For Sarpsborg in his seasons with them, 40 games, 7 goals, 10 assists. Over his whole professional career, 103 games, 16 goals, and 18 assists. His season rating so far this season is 7.31 out of 10, so good ratings so far this season. And looking at his more detailed ratings, he's got very, very good ratings for short and medium passing, not great ratings for crosses, not great ratings for shot conversion. He doesn't actually put away that many chances. He does, however, create a good number of chances every game, and he has reasonable, but no more than reasonable stats for midfield defence and tracking back. As I said, there is a longer video version and more highlights in the video from the 19th of December of last year. So do look at those for the full video, but now going to put in some edited versions of the highlights from the December video. Have to say, don't think Orjasaeter is worth £6 million at this time. Does seem predominantly right-footed, not the best for hitting the byline and getting the ball into the box. Pretty good at creating chances, has reasonable pace rather than great pace. Does seem, as I said, very right foot predominant. And I'm not so convinced that he would fit well into Celtic's team at this time. I think he may be a player who gets better and better with more games and more experience, and so maybe a player to come back to a couple of seasons' time, assuming that he keeps on progressing in Norwegian football. Other player that Celtic are said to be closely looking at, Michel Balikwisha, who plays for Royal Antwerp in Belgium. A lot of strong stories that last summer Celtic were going to sign him, and then unfortunately he got injured and missed the rest of 2024 basically through injury, and so Celtic pulled out of the transfer. It's thought that Antwerp are keen to sell him, that Balikwisha is keen to move away from Belgian football to develop his career, and there are even some stories that Celtic and Balikwisha and his agent have been discussing contracts and terms with a view to a formal transfer once the transfer window reopens. Just a wee reminder of Balikwisha's stats. He is 24 years old, 5'10", has played for Belgium at under 16, under 17, under 18, under 19, under 21 level. His contract has another year or so to run at Antwerp until the end of June 2026, and his transfer value is said to be £5.5 million, which does seem a very reasonable fee for a player of his experience and a player who's on the verge of the full Belgian international squad. His season rating last season was 7.22 in an abbreviated season due to injury. He played 18 games with 4 goals and 3 assists after coming back from injury, and over his whole career for Royal Antwerp and Standard Liège, 182 games, 38 goals, 21 assists. He plays mostly left wing, but does also play right wing very capably, can also play centre forward and second striker, and certainly can play a wee bit like Dijsselmeyer, all 3 positions, whilst more being left than right. From his videos, two-footed player, his in-depth stats show very good chance conversion rates, good finisher, creates a lot of chances for others, good midfield defence as well, good tackling and interceptions and blocking as well, so tracks back nicely, and has good stats for passing, short, medium and long, and reasonable stats for crossing, and as I said, also good ability for winning the ball back, and so does seem a much more all-around player than Orjasaeter. So just going to pop in an edited version of the highlights that were in the videos from April 2025 and July 2024, and then we'll finish off with a wee roundup of all the players. think that Balikwisha would be a player who would fit in very nicely at Celtic. Doesn't have tons and tons of pace, but basically is good at passing, good at crossing, good at finishing, good at tracking back, so fits very much into Celtic's system now. I think he's a player who will get better and better, but could very easily fit in as one of Celtic's best two wide players right from the start, and I think certainly would be more than a capable backup given his versatility to cover things on the right and left wing for the next several months once we wait for Jota to come back from injury, and also the possibilities of Maeda and Kuhn leaving the club. And I think Balikwisha could easily step in for one or the other straight away without there being much drop in performance. Would be great to see what you think yourself regarding those players. Do have a wee look at the longer versions of the Orjasaeter and Balikwisha videos for more depth and more stats. And do feel free to pop your own thoughts and comments, etc., into the comment section regarding which you'd prefer out of Doig or Penrice, or would you prefer neither? And similarly, what your thoughts are on Orjasaeter and Balikwisha, and are there any other white players on your radar out there, as there are plenty names circulating around regarding players coming and going at Celtic, as is so often the case early in the transfer window. And so until the next video, goodbye and hail, hail.